Have you ever looked in the mirror and felt like something about your hair just wasn't quite right? Maybe you've changed the color, the cut, even the styling products, but still, something feels off. Believe it or not, the problem might not be the haircut at all. It might be where you part your hair. For so many women, especially those of us over 50, the way we part our hair is something we've stuck with for years, sometimes even decades, without giving it a second thought. But what if I told you that changing your part, just slightly, could actually make you look more balanced, refreshed, and yes, even younger? In today's video, we're going to break down what really matters when it comes to choosing your part. And it's not just about face shape. There's something called your cranial top that plays a huge role in how a hairstyle sits on your head, and how a hairstyle sits on your head, and how it affects the overall look of your face. This is something most stylists never mention, and yet it can completely change how you see yourself. So if you've been feeling stuck in the same look, or you're just curious about what a simple change in your parting could do, stay with me. You might be surprised at how powerful this tiny tweak can be. The overlooked factor. Your cranial top might be the real reason your hair part doesn't work. Let's talk about something almost no one mentions when it comes to choosing the right hair part. The shape of your head. More specifically, your cranial top. Your cranial top is the area from the front of your hairline to the highest point on your head, just before the crown. This distance, whether it's long or short, can drastically affect how your hairstyle frames your face. If it's higher, your hair naturally has more lift and volume at the top. That means a center part might look soft, balanced, even youthful. But if your cranial top is lower, parting your hair straight down the middle can make your face appear flat, or even emphasize things like a wider forehead or sagging around the cheeks. This is why some women look amazing with center parts, while others just don't feel right, no matter how trendy it is. It's not you, it's the architecture of your head. Once you understand this, you can finally start choosing parts that truly work with you, not against you. How to identify your hairline and facial proportions at home now that you know your cranial top plays a major role? Let's take a look at two other important things. Your hairline and your facial proportions. The best part, you don't need a stylist or fancy tools. You can do this at home with just a mirror and maybe a pencil. First, let's talk about facial proportions. Imagine your face divided into 3 horizontal sections. The top third goes from your hairline to the middle of your eyebrows. The middle third runs from your eyebrows to the bottom of your nose, and the lower third stretches from the bottom of your nose to your chin. If those 3 sections are pretty close in length, congratulations. You have a balanced face shape. But even if they're not perfectly even, don't worry. Most of us have unique proportions, and that's what makes our faces interesting. Still, knowing where you might have more length, like a longer chin or a shorter forehead, helps you understand which part will flatter your features. Now, look at your hairline. Is it wide and flat across the top, like a square, rounded, or maybe more narrow, or V-shaped, like a widow's peak? A wide hairline can make your forehead appear larger, which means a center part might help soften the width. On the other hand, a narrow hairline can make your forehead look smaller, so a side part could help open up your face and add balance. So before you even touch a comb, take a minute to study what's already there. Your hairline and facial proportions are the blueprint. Once you know what you're working with, everything about your hairstyle starts to make a whole lot more sense. Choosing the right hair part based on your proportions and age, now that you've identified your facial thirds and hairline shape, let's talk about how to actually use that information to choose a hair part that works, especially for women over 50. Let's start with a common example. If you have a higher forehead and a more angular jawline, which is often seen in square or rectangular face shapes, a side part can help soften those angles. It breaks up the symmetry just enough to add movement. And femininity, bonus tip. Tucking one side behind your ear gives a slight lift and also lets your cheekbones shine. An elegant touch that works beautifully as we age. If your forehead is short but your chin is longer. Something we often see in heart-shaped faces. A deep side part that sweeps across the forehead can create a nice diagonal line that balances your proportions. It draws the eye upward and outward, creating a more lifted look overall. Now, for those with a longer face shape and a lower cranial top, a center part can sometimes make the face look even longer or a little more tired. But don't worry, that doesn't mean you can't ever wear it. You just need a little softness, like face framing layers or volume at the crown, to bring everything into balance. One more thing to consider. As we get older, hair tends to thin at the part line, so if you've had the same part for decades, it might be time to switch it up. Not just for a new look, but to give those follicles a break. A simple shift, even just half an inch, can instantly refresh your look and reduce stress on your scalp. At the end of the day, choosing your part isn't about following trends. It's about creating harmony with the unique features you already have. You're not trying to hide anything. You're enhancing what makes you, you. What 18 years behind the chair taught me about hair parts and confidence, after nearly 2 decades working as a stylist, I've learned something that goes way beyond face shapes or cranial structures, and it's this. Sometimes the biggest transformations don't come from scissors or color. They come from changing your part. I've had women in their 50s, 60s, even 70s, sit in my chair and tell me, "Do whatever you think is best, I trust you." And when I suggest something as small as shifting their part to the other side, their first reaction is usually hesitation. "Oh, I've been parting it this way forever." But once we make the change, and they see themselves in the mirror, it's like watching someone come back to life. You see, when you've been styling your hair the same way for years, it becomes part of your identity. But sometimes, that old part is tied to a version of yourself that no longer feels current. Shifting your part is like saying, "I'm still evolving. I'm allowed to change, and I deserve to look and feel my best at any age." So if you've been feeling stuck in your style, or just not quite like yourself, don't underestimate the power of something so small. A new part can open up your something so small. A new part can open up your features, give you a fresh perspective, and even lift your energy. And remember, confidence doesn't come from a perfect haircut. It comes from the feeling you get when you see your reflection and say, "Yes, that's me." Your best hair is the one that makes you feel like you so, after everything we've covered, the cranial top, facial proportions, your hairline. There's one thing I hope you take away from this. There is no single correct way to part your hair. The best part is the one that makes you feel confident, comfortable, and most like yourself. If you love the way your hair looks right now, don't feel pressured to change it just because of a trend or a rule. But if you've been curious about trying something new, now you have the knowledge to make that change with confidence. And no, it's not just about style. It's about harmony with your features and age. Because at the end of the day, it's not really about the part. It's about how you carry yourself with it. And when you feel good, you glow differently. Now that you know a little more about what your hairline, cranial top, and facial proportions might be saying, I'd love to hear from you. What part have you been wearing for years? And are you thinking of trying something new? Drop me a comment below and let's start a conversation. And if this video helped you see your hair in a new way, go ahead and give it a like or share it with a friend who might need it too. And don't forget to subscribe, because next time, we're diving into the best haircuts for thinning hair and how to bring volume back, especially for women over 50. Thanks so much for spending this time with me, and I'll see you in the next one.